Good day and welcome to another exciting episode of Zoom Time. My name is Tunde Obe.
My name hasn't changed any, Charlie Ball.
Today's guest, indeed, is a very interesting personality. I'm sure most of you that would watch Nigerian television in the last, did I say 4 years or 3 years, have come to know him extremely well. But now today he's on Zoom Time. Of course, we do it our way. We're going to be handling things from a different direction today, but it's still going to be extremely exciting. So I just want to say, sit back, relax, fasten your seatbelt. It's time for Zoom Time.
So, zoom, you zoom the camera, zoom, zoom it down to maximum, zoom.
And who's our guest today? He is indeed the Special Assistant to the President, Federal Republic of Nigeria on Public Affairs. We're talking about Chief Femi Fani-Kayode, right here on Zoom Time. You're welcome, sir.
How do you do?
It's very nice to have you.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure to be here.
Nice to meet you up close and personal.
Indeed.
First time. Of course, I've been seeing you, all your other interviews.
Yes.
Welcome to Zoom Time.
Thank you very much.
The seat is not as hot. But it can get a little warm sometimes.
That's okay.
But we always like to start from the beginning.
Okay.
You were born to the family of the prestigious, the late Chief Femi Fani-Kayode. What was early life like? What was your first growing up memories? How do you remember your father, your mother, and all your siblings?
Well, so many things in that first question. It was a very, very interesting period for me. I mean, from very, very early on, I have vivid memories of some of the things that I witnessed, I saw, and I went through. Really extraordinary, because I remember as far back as I was 6 years old, the first, I'd say, defining moment in my life was when I was 6 years old, and I was confronted with what I would say a life-threatening situation when armed men that called themselves soldiers stormed our house in Ibadan. At that time, my father was Deputy Premier of the Western Region, and they came in, and I remember my mother coming into our bedroom. I was with my younger sister, and the older ones that were at school, you know, they weren't at home, but we were there, and came in and woke us up, and it was in the middle of the night, early hours of the morning. It was still dark, and I remember there were no lights inside the house. There was no light. They'd cut the lights and everything. And I remember when I got up, looking outside the window and seeing a convoy of vehicles coming up our driveway, very long driveway, so the vehicles were still far away, but we could see a convoy of vehicles, and you could hear very, heavy sounding lorries were coming up the driveway. And my mother was clearly panicking, and said we should get up and come into, my parents' bedroom.
You were how old?
I was 6 years old. I remember this vividly, We went into the room, into their room. When we got into their room, basically there was panic everywhere, and I saw my dad in his pajamas and in his dressing gown, trying to calm everybody down. He now brought out his shotgun, which I was terrified to see. And the next thing you knew, you heard them downstairs shouting, "Open the door, open the door, open the door, come out." This kind of... It was really traumatic. Some were firing shots into the air. So my father now called us all and said, "Look, that there are some men here that want him. And he doesn't know what they want, but it's him that they want. And that he is not going to start shooting from inside, despite the fact that he had a shotgun in his hand. But he wanted to explain to us, because he doesn't know what would happen, that he will go and meet them outside, because it's him they came for, not us. So we shouldn't worry, we'll be all right." And my mother was screaming, "Don't go out, don't go out." He said, "No, no." And then he did a short prayer for us, because you see, at that time, what I'm telling you about is, of course, the first attempted coup in January 66. The whole country was in turmoil. People were being killed. All the leaders at that time were being killed, and this was what was unfolding in our own residence at the time. So he now he prayed for us, and put down his shotgun and went downstairs and went out to meet. And when he went out there, we all ran to the balcony to see what was going on down there. And what they did was that, of course, they started brutalizing him. The first thing they said to him was that, where are your thugs now? You know. And my father, in a very sort of characteristic manner, instead of just keeping quiet, said, I don't have thugs, I have gentlemen. The minute he said that, one of them just hit him with the butt of his rifle. He started kicking him on the floor and all that. And then they picked him out, and he was, you know, the man was, he was young then. He was probably younger than I am today. So he was like, you know, also roughing it up with them. They got him, just threw him in the back of the lorry, and my mother was screaming. I'll never forget those screams. Don't kill him, don't kill him, don't kill him.
What was going on in your mind at the time?
In fact, I missed out a very interesting part. In fact, for me, the most defining moment, I think probably of my life, was when they came in. I missed out this part. Before they took him out, he went to meet them, but they still came into the premises. Whilst he was downstairs, they still came into the premises before we went into the balcony. And you know, there's nothing worse than that. You see armed men, uniformed men in your home. They came into my father.
Was that the first time you had seen a soldier?
No, I'd seen soldiers, you know, probably, you know, before them, but not aggressive ones coming for us, storming our home, entering my father's bedroom, entering all the rooms in the house, ransacking everywhere, looking for God knows what. They came into, we were now inside, initially we were inside my parents' bedroom, like I said. So they now stormed the house, entered the room before we went onto the balcony. And my mother had hidden myself and my younger sister in their wardrobe, of all places. That's where she hid us. So when they came in, all we could hear was that there's nothing here. She was, there's nothing here. I said, what is going on? What is here? What is here? What is here? There's nothing there. He's gone downstairs. He's downstairs. And she now told us that one of them now picked up his, you know, cocked his machine gun and pointed it towards the wardrobe. I was going to spray the whole thing. And she said, my children are there. John, they said, don't kill them, please, you know. And that's how we were not killed. Actually, my older brother, one of them was there, Rotimi, because when they now opened the wardrobes, he was fixated completely. He couldn't move. My younger sister was weeping, sobbing, and I was like, I was crying, but at least I could move. But my older brother couldn't move. So he froze there, and we now came out. And this I'm coming to the defining moment now. When we now came out of the wardrobe, and of course there was just havoc. Soldiers were everywhere, trampling the whole place. And I went into the passage, I stood there, and I was all alone. I just didn't know where my mom was at that point. I didn't know where my sister was. I was just standing there on my own, and these guys were just all around me, moving around. And then one of them came up to me, and he put his hand on my head, and he said, don't cry, don't cry, don't worry, we won't kill your father. And when he said that to me, honestly, I stopped crying. The tears just stopped. Because it's like somehow I just felt this assurance, even at that young age, despite what I was seeing. And it was at that point that my mother now appeared again, and then we all went to the balcony because, of course, they were ready to go. And I witnessed all the altercation downstairs, what they were saying and doing to him. And they now put him in the lorry, and my mother's screaming again on the balcony that don't kill him, don't kill him. And as they were driving off, I turned around to my mother and I said, you know, Mommy, don't cry, because the man said they won't kill him. So don't cry, they won't kill him. And they drove off. And I remember the backlights of the lorry, and I thought to myself, well, you know, this is quite something. Everybody, it was a terrible experience. And of course, he was the only person who the soldiers visited that night. January, not sure, I think 16th, 1966. He was the only person that was not killed. Every single other house, premises that they visited, they killed the people there. They went to Chief Akitola's house after they left our own house. The same soldiers went there because they were in charge of the operation in southwestern region. And he was firing from inside, because my father told me this. He resisted them. As a matter of fact, wounded 2 of their soldiers. And when his ammunition ran out, evidently he had gunmen inside the building. When the ammunition now ran out on the inside, he now came out. And my father told us that he was shouting, you know, obviously he couldn't hear him, but because he had been tied up by now, he was shouting from the lorry that, look, don't shoot, just come out, don't shoot. But obviously they couldn't hear him. And he was sitting there in the lorry again, bullets were flying everywhere, the soldiers were taking it. He was just sitting there, not one bullet touched him. Anyway, Akitola now came out with his hands up in the air when the ammunition had finished, with a white handkerchief, I think. And the minute he stepped out, these guys just sprayed him. I mean, they just sprayed him from every angle and killed him. And later on, of course, we learned that Tafawa Balewa, the Prime Minister, had also been abducted. When they came for him, he told them, "Let me pray before you kill me." They took him to an unknown destination. They allowed him to pray. And then they killed him, and then they mutilated him. You know. Okuchiebo, the Minister of Finance, they went to his home, took him away. They butchered him, killed him. They mutilated him. They dragged his body all over the streets, the back of the vehicle. Tafawa Balewa's case was particularly bad. And you see, I'm not trying to be gory, because it's important that we remember these things, because so that people will realize that this sort of thing must never happen again. When I say mutilated, they really mean they cut, they pull out his eyes, all that sort of thing. They really mean.
Now, what happened to your old man? Did he come back a day or two?
What happened was very interesting, because you know, as the situation was unfolding, we got a clear picture of what was happening all over the country. And like I said, everybody, Adimulegu, who was the number 2 in the Nigerian military, was up in Ibadan, in Kaduna at the time. They went in, they stormed the place. He had an 8-month-old pregnant wife in bed with him. They butchered the wife, they butchered him. They did the same to Washpam. They did the same to so many other people. Zak Malari, the highest ranking, I think, Northern Army officer of the day, they butchered him in Lagos. The same people that killed him went to his cocktail the night before to celebrate with him. And they came back early hours of the morning and they slaughtered him. Okay? So it was happening everywhere. And of course the list, you know all the people that were killed that night. Everybody has his own story. But what happened to my dad again was very interesting. They now took him to Lagos, to Bonny Camp. And it was just divine intervention, because what saved his life was this. They were to take him there and kill him there. That was the plan. Take them to a destination, kill them there. But unfortunately for the coup plotters, unfortunately for us, the gentleman that was in charge of Bonny Camp, I believe must have been Colonel then or whatever, Yakubu Gawan, didn't spend the night at Bonny Camp. Don't ask me where he spent the night. There are all kinds of conflicting stories about that. But he didn't spend the night. And that's what saved his life and saved my dad's life. Because without killing the commanding officer, there was always a possibility the Bonny Camp wouldn't go their way. So when they got to Bonny Camp, they got in all right. They took my dad into a guard room or whatever you call it. 3 soldiers surrounded him. And my dad told us that as he walked into that guard room, that he remembered there was a particular army officer. He didn't have his shirt on. It may not have been a guard room, it was a room of some sort, because there was somebody there shaving. And he said their eyes met. The man was shaving, and he looked through the mirror and their eyes met just for a split second. And then they put him on the floor, tied up. They now surrounded him with machine guns. And that is the people that brought him there. And the others now left 3 soldiers guarding him, you know. And he said he now started having a conversation with them. Why are you doing this? What's going on? He said, we've killed everybody. Don't you know that you people, you didn't get us new boots, you didn't get us new uniforms? That's the kind of thing he was saying. He said, so because of new boots and uniforms you want to kill? He said, yes, you people have been stealing money, you've been this. All right. Meanwhile, the man that was shaving just continued to shave as if nothing was happening. And then he now quietly left the room. He said about an hour later, that same man that was shaving came through that door, but only this time it was like fire was coming out of his eyes. He led a team of soldiers, and he said when he came in, he couldn't believe this is the same person that he saw so calm. Just about an hour later, the man came in blasting, and he had soldiers coming following him. They were all shooting. Meanwhile, the ones that were guarding him turned, or rather kept him in custody, turned their guns around to, face the oncoming fire. So they also returned fire. And he said there he was in the middle of the room once again. It's like, just